فأعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم قل أعوذ برب الفلق من شر ما خلق ومن شر غاسق إذا وقب ومن شر النفاثات في العقد ومن شر حاسد إذا حسد صدق الله العلي العظيم وصدق رسوله النبي الكريم ونحن على ذلك من الشاهدين. I bear witness that no God is there without Allah. And I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, may the peace and blessings of Allah be upon him, is the last, the final messenger of Allah, after whom no prophet old or new will come. And I begin in the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Merciful. I interpret this chapter of the Quran that is known by so many of you, even including children, in this way. Indicate, I search for protection in the nurturer of intervention from the harms of what he has brought into existence, and also from the harm of darkness as it occurs, and from the harm of those who spout out big ideas, and also from the harm of the jealous one when he or she becomes jealous. There's a general belief that Islam is built on 5 pillars. And I sometimes wonder, such a huge religion of this, can it really be supported by just 5 pillars? And what is meant by Islam being built on 5 pillars? Is it the religion generally worldwide? Or is it the individual, that each individual, their Islam is based upon 5 pillars? I recall many years ago, a young man once told a Muslim businessman, he said, if your business should pay zakat, we will have so much of funds to be able to propagate Islam. And I asked myself this question, is zakat applicable to a company? Because if one pillar of Islam is applicable to a company, then all pillars should be. So can a company have faith in God? Can a company pray? Can a company fast? Can a company go to pilgrimage? And if you say, well, none of these things could be done, and even zakat is not compulsory in a business, then what guidance and guidelines are there for the running of any society, any community outside of the personal, individual searching for God and living in accordance with these 5 principles? How could a government run? Does it run on the 5 principles? A Muslim country? Are they built on these 5 principles? Most times, the Muslim country focuses only on one principle, zakat, how to collect zakat. But we must understand, first of all, that the Quran is a book of guidance for all human beings. All human beings, whatever their religion, race, faith, whatever, but it has certain guidelines for the proper running of community and society. And so, the guidance that the Quran gives, unlike other faith systems and other scriptures, is not only for religious or spiritual life to tell you how to pray, because some people believe that if you spread Islam in the West, the first thing you have to see is whether people come into masjid. Whether the masjid is open or closed, or how many people are coming. If a lot of people come on Friday or they pray 5 times a day, Islam is going good, regardless of the behavior of the people. They can be hostile, they can be cruel, whatever they may be. But they are just looking at the building or the dress. If you are wearing proper dress, if your head is covered, if you are wearing topi, if your pants is above the ankle, all of these things, that is what Islam has come to when it talks about the 5 pillars. So that the guidance that Allah gives us is not only for our religious or spiritual life, but it also how to manage our daily affairs. And so that is why the Quran speaks of Allah's Rabbul Falaq, A'udhu Billahi min, Kul A'udhu Billahi, A'udhu Bi Rabbil Falaq, Rabbul Falaq. Rabb means the one who nurtures, who carries you along, and Falaq means to break, to cleave, to intervene. We know that in life we have so many challenges and we have solutions, we have opportunities. But it's not always that we can overcome these challenges, and not always we can make use of these opportunities. A person may be very bright but has no opportunity to go to school or write an exam. And this is where the Quran speaks about intervention. Allah intervening. Because He either gives us challenges in life to overcome, or He gives us solutions to encourage us. In other words, when there are challenges, when there are obstacles, Allah can turn our stumbling blocks, where we falter, where we make mistakes, into building blocks. We learn and we can move forward from there. So in life, any individual and any community for that matter, a society, a nation, a country, whenever they begin a project, when you have to do something, some kind of project, it could be cooking, it could be building a road, it could be studying for an examination, whatever it may be. Every project requires, you need to look first of all at four things. You need to look at your strengths. And the Quran gives us that guidance in these last chapters. It says, Inna atayna kal kawsar, we give you an abundance. We give you the resources. That's the first thing. You have to realize what you have. But then it speaks of al-kafirun, lakum dinukum waliyadin, because you may have resources, but you may be ignorant. You can't make full use of it. Kafir means to fail to make use, not to disbelieve, but to fail to make use of what you have. So you may have doubts, or you may make bad decisions, and lakum dinukum waliyadin. The result for you will be the outcome of your behavior and your attitude and your whatever decisions you may make. But then the Quran says you can have these two things, but what's the purpose? Where's your goal? And the next chapter tells us An-Nasr, help of Allah, victory. It says you have to have a plan that what you want to achieve. Just as children go to school and they know, well, I want to do the sciences, or I want to do business studies, or I want to do arts. And then, of course, in every aspect of life, you do have obstacles, particularly from people. You have threats. And Surah Al-Lahab tells us this, the kind of opposition, and how to deal with it. So the Quran identifies these issues, puts them before us, and gives us the guidance and guidelines to handle that. That has nothing to do with faith, prayer, fasting, charity, and pilgrimage. It has to deal with common sense and a relationship with God as to how to deal with issues that arrive in life. So if we look at strengths, for example, we are human beings with common interests, with needs and aspirations. Each and every one of us, our needs and our aspirations may be different. We relate to others and we are interdependent on other people. But it is Allah who facilitates us with affluence and abundant resources. As we see in California, very wealthy people had their businesses burned down, their houses burned down, mansions. When businesses burn down, the employees have nowhere to go. Some children, their house is not only burned down, but the vehicle is burned down. They can't have transport to go anywhere. And they have to wait for something. They have no clothes even. No washing, no water, no electricity. So you can have a lot, but you can also lose it as well. And so what the Quran encourages us to do is to do it His way, not my way, Allah's way. Allah has a way for us, Sabilillah, the way of Allah. And we have to be guided to and along that way. What is the way that Allah wants and how we can go along it. So we also need to look at our weaknesses, because we tend to lack faith in God. First thing, if you don't believe in God, how can you walk on the path of God, follow the guidance of God? So there may be lack of faith in our own self, or even lack of faith in others. We don't think people can help us, and we are interdependent on others. So sometimes we often shun our own duties and our own responsibilities, and you can't achieve success. That's the weaknesses we may have. We may have doubts, we may have a lackadaisical attitude, we may be procrastinators, putting off things. So sometimes we lack determination and we give up. I recall many years ago I was talking on this chapter, and I give the illustration of a person who is digging for water. You're digging for a well, and you go down so deep, and then you give up and say, I don't think there's any water there. You have to check before whether water is available, or oil, or whatever you're digging for. You don't just dig randomly. You have to do surveys and these things. Quran mentions that. But if they had gone maybe a day more in digging, or 2 or 3 feet or whatever, you will find that water is available. We see it in the case of Hagar and Ishmael. She didn't see water. She ran hither and fro through Safa and Marwa. And right there was water. We're just moving the sand a little bit. That particular well of Zamzam was even lost after Ishmael for many years. And the Prophet's grandfather, Abdul Muttalib, it is said, moved the stone and the well was there. It was blocking, it was clogged up. So that we have to insist on doing it in God's way, Allah's way, and not in my way. We have to look for the guidance that God gives us, because we have weaknesses within us. The Quran says, Antum fuqara ilallah. You have need of Allah. We all have need of God to help us. But then we need opportunities. We can communicate, we can recognize options given to us by Allah. He gives us so many options, there's no compulsion. Choice is there. قَدْ تَبَيَّنَ الرُّشْدُ مِنَ الْغَيِّ. The right way is distinct from the way of error. So we are taught self-development through soul development. We have to develop a relationship with God in order to make the right decision for Him to guide us. And then we have what we know as threats, and that is our personal behavior and our shortcomings. We have within us certain abilities and inabilities, certain strengths and certain weaknesses. But we also have interpersonal relationship. We may depend upon people we can't depend on. They're just not working. They're not just doing their job. So you find different deficiencies and challenges that come from society. You can't get foreign exchange. You can't get this. You can't get products. You can't get your raw materials. So these challenges come from society or from within ourselves, and in our performance to others are identified as how do we perform. If you're not a good business person, your customers don't like you, they will not come back again. And so in almost every aspect of life. Why does the Quran use the word falak? The Quran uses the word falak in another place in chapter 6, where it speaks of Allah as falikul habba wan nawa. Habba means a soft seed, like a bean, a peas, soft, or any other soft seed. And then you have some harder seeds like mango seeds or avocado, zabuka. But then you have the nawa, which is a date seed. I don't know how many of you have ever eaten a date and take the seed and try to break it. If you take a hammer and hit it, it will fly away. It wouldn't break. Very difficult to break, almost impossible. So the Quran is telling us here that from a soft seed you find so many plants. Our children do that. They put a bean on blotting paper and easily you find a plant comes up. But look at the date seed. It's so hard. Yet still that seed in a dry desert climate with just a little bit of water, in an oasis, just a little water, and the seed will break and will thrive and bear fruit and give you so much of dates. So the Quran is saying, look at Allah, and when you have certain opportunities and so on easily, He can help you. When you have challenges and difficulties, He can break those things, He can intervene. He can make a breakthrough for you. That is why these verses of the Quran strengthen our faith in God when we understand them. So Allah is that nurturer who can break the darkness. We may be in doubt, we don't know what to do. I want to do something but I don't know how to do it, what to do, what direction to go. So we are in darkness, as it were. And he can open, just as he can open the date seed, what we call the pit of the date, and cause it to grow and to develop and to germinate, he can also remove our hardships and our ignorance. So this chapter tells us about 4 things. It tells us that any project you want to do, anything you want to do, there are 4 things which you have to look at. First is a proper place. You need to have a place. If you want to build a house, you must have a piece of land. If you want to have a business, you either rent or you put up a building. If you want to write and study for an exam, you study for any subject, you have to go to school, or you have to go on the internet, get the information. They have some kind of place, and if you're going on the internet, you need to have your computer and a place to put it as well. So they need to have a proper place or environment. A person wants to dig for water or oil, they must know, where am I going to do it? In the sea? On land? So the human being is a product of his or her environment. We need food, we need weather, all of these things we have to look at. These all influence him or her, and it can enhance or destroy our environment, which is what people are looking at today. To accommodate 8 billion people in this world, you have to look at the environment and the impact of the environment of our behavior and actions. And then the Quran speaks of khalaq, a plan. The word khalaq means Allah had a plan. He has created a plan of everything. And but he says that min sharri ghasikin iza waqab. And waqab means to enter into something such that you are lost. You go somewhere but you are lost. You get involved in some kind of event, some kind of project, and you don't know what to do, where to go. You want to start a business, you don't know what kind of business. Where am I going to get my stock? Where am I going to get employed? How much is it going to cost? You have to have a business plan. So if you're in dark, you find difficulty. So you need to have that, first the environment, a place, a location, and then you need to have proper knowledge. You need to do what is called sometimes planning, draw a plan, you have to become educated, you have to do research. All of these things you need to do. Surveys. And then the Quran speaks of you have to have the proper attitude. Because no success is built upon having a nice place, having all the knowledge, but you don't have the proper attitude. I recall someone was once indicated to me, a gentleman who started a business. He was so fond of having a business, he had a nice office, put the best chairs, put all the nice things in the office, but he hadn't sold a pencil. So before he put all the computers and everything, but he had no customer, no plan. How are you going to bring in income to sustain that? So sometimes we don't think of these things. So the Quran speaks about proper attitude. You have to be determined. You have to be dedicated. You need a time frame to judge how much am I succeeding or not. So each project has certain plans, and the Quran speaks of that in these verses. So waqab means min sharri naffasati fil uqad. Literally it means those who blow into knots. I usually interpret it to mean those who spit on agreements. You make an arrangement with somebody and then they spit on it. They don't take you on. Someone was giving me an example some time ago of a gentleman who wanted a job. On the day of the interview, he didn't turn up. So they called him and said, well, he said, oh, I forgot. I didn't remember. So if you have that kind of attitude, how would you be able to get a job? So the Quran says, nafasat fil uqad. There are so many things that influence you. Aqad means a bond, a knot, a commitment. And nafasat means blow it away. You spit it out. You just blow, you pay no attention to it, you don't take it seriously. So the opposite of that is to be determined, to be consistent. And then of course you can build the best business, have all the opportunities, do everything, and then someone comes and cuts you down. Someone comes and robs you, steal all that you have worked for so hard. And that's what the Quran uses the word hasid. Min sharri hasidin iza hasad. You have to protect yourself, you have to have security. Hasid means one who desires blessings or favors that he or she cannot or does not deserve. So your opponents want to steal from you, want to take your ideas, and a lot of companies have that. They protect you, give you a no disclosure agreement, or they have what is called copyright. So all of these things are mentioned in this simple verse of the Quran that tells us about the 4 things that are necessary to embark upon any project, to go on to any project. And you can apply it to cooking, you can apply it to family relationship, you can apply them to marriage, you can apply them to any situation. So to think that Islam is only based upon 5 pillars and we lose the spirit of the Quran because those 5 pillars, they look into hadith to see how much you can pay for zakat and how much rakats you should read and how much ceremony you should perform in Hajj and how you could fast in this country when the day is too long and all these kinds of things. They look complicating the pillars of Islam rather than using them as a means of self-development, where the Quran has so much of other information to help us to go through life. So we seek refuge in the nurture of breaking, that all obstacles he can break. What breaks our spirit? What it is that breaks our spirit? Inherent obstacles. There are certain things that we just didn't think of. We didn't think of the weather. We didn't think of the material. We didn't think of the cost. Cost overruns. Then we may have what can break our spirit is lack of knowledge or personal fears that I don't think this will succeed. You create doubts in your own self. And you have jealous detractors. So the Quran points out to us that human efforts and struggle require these 4 things, without which there is no success. If you don't have a proper environment, a proper site, you don't have resources, you don't have capital with which to possess the materials or the whatever you need, these are factors which will impact upon the feasibility and the success of the task at hand. And unless and until the obstacles and hurdles which exist are not dealt with, the project will fail. And so Allah is the one who intervenes. Call upon Him to intervene in any situation, health situation. He can get the appropriate doctors for you. He may have the proper surgery or medical treatment or so. He can intervene. Because we can go to anybody and do the same operation and not successful. If we do it Allah's way, we will find that there is a success. Many of us have tried that and many of us have proven that that is in fact true. And the next requirement is a feasibility survey to assess the resources. You have a health problem, you go and you do an MRI, you do an ultrasound, you have to find out, you have to get the knowledge. Otherwise you can have operation after operation, you get in nowhere, you don't know what you're treating. You're treating the symptoms, yes, but then the problem is recurring. So you have to assess the resources which are necessary for the project implementation. And that data is required. You need to get information or what we call data. And then, of course, you need to have firm authorization and commitment of the stakeholders. You have to have, if you're going to have a operation performed, you need to have a proper date. Anything you're doing, if you need to borrow money from the bank, again, you need to have the authorization that yes, you can go ahead and we'll give you the funding and anything. You want to cook something, you need to make up your mind whether it's going to be fish or chicken or meat or vegetarian as the case may be. And then you need to have a risk analysis and management. You need to realize that what are the obstacles that can prevent me from achieving this. Did I leave the fire on and burn? If I have something else to do, I have to answer the phone. I have to watch a video and I didn't not looking at the stove, the food could burn. If I'm driving and I'm not paying attention, I can get in an accident. So all of any project you take, these 4 things are so necessary. But there are some things we need to understand when the Quran is talking here. First of all, it says about min sharri ma khalaq. And many people interpret that to mean the evil of what Allah has created. Allah has not created evil. And that is not what the verse says. It says the evil of what He has created, not the evil that He has created. He has not created evil. But everything that Allah has created, ma khalaq means that whatever He has created can harm us. You can have parents killing children. You can have them abusing them. teachers taking abuse, bullying and all of these things. Allah has created us as human beings, but what He has created can do harm to us. You find that, yes, there are some things in the environment that produces harm. Things like fire or flood. Sometimes eating food and may be bad for us. He didn't create the evil, but if the food was, a fly sat on it in the milk, or if something happened, I often give this analogy. Mother may want to give the child some glass of milk, didn't see a fly on it, but when she was walking and going to give the child, she fell, or the bottle, the glass fell and it broke. Allah intervened and prevented her without her knowing that the milk was contaminated. So this is how we have to realize that sometimes when issues arise in our life, it may be Allah is trying to protect us. That's why we need to believe in Him as a Rabbul Falak. So good things sometimes become out of control, like fire and flood and, as I said, eating food and so on. Even these are good things. And then the Quran speaks about Ghasikin is Awakab, which means intensely dark. One who is lost. You just don't know which direction you're going. We can only have control when we have correct knowledge. You have knowledge, you know where you're going, you know this is the road. If you're confused, you may take the wrong road. So ignorance can harm us or even destroy us by, you take for example, if a person put their hand in a hole and has a snake there. If you know there's a snake, you wouldn't do it. Unless a person is a daredevil, as the case may be. So, if you know something has poison, you wouldn't drink it. If you don't know, you can have risk to yourself. So much evil breeds under the cover of darkness. We know that. Criminals and crooks tread on, they enjoy darkness to be able to perform their evil deeds. So when the mind is dark or clouded, it also breeds evil. That's why we need to enlighten ourselves, give ourselves knowledge. So even good things in the dark can harm us. For example, if the place is dark and you're coming here, you may bounce your foot on a stone or a chair or something like that. When the place is dark, you just can't find your way. So we need to carry a light, or we need to carry a lamp when it is dark, and we need to work with knowledge. And Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. If we walk with Allah wherever we go, and the attributes of Allah, we find that things will be good. So even good things in the dark can harm us. So the Quran encourages us, bishadrin nafasat, if you look at, to have a commitment. And we see in our society, and especially our young ones, they are influenced by ads. People are influenced by ads. You see something and you click on it, next thing you know, money goes out of your credit card or your account, as the case may be. You find that there's peer pressure. You find there are jingles in calypsos that tell you, you know, be lazy or just don't care. Many songs and so on can encourage us to do good as well as to do bad. The media and so on influences our children. They keep on singing the same song over and over and over, and that can change their song. Sometimes they need to change it. We have fake news can influence us, and that is something which is accepted and so common nowadays. So people sometimes influence us by their promises, by contracts, ties of commitment, which is spew out, or spit out, or spout out. Merely comes from their mouth, but they are not determined. They are not really prepared to assist us. So the Quran wants us to understand that we don't have to adopt a lackadaisical attitude in whatever we want to do. And unfortunately, that is the attitude that many Muslims adopt when it comes to the propagation of Islam. They don't want to go out and propagate Islam, to tell their friends, their family, their relatives, their neighbors. You will find, I have seen in my experience, that there are some people, in fact it has happened to me. Person grew up in a mosque, grew up as a good Muslim and then become a Christian. And then feels an opportunity. Maulana, I want to talk to you, and telling me now about how Christ can save them. And how Christ can save us. People come to your home, the Jehovah's Witnesses. People who believe in something will work towards ensuring that others benefit from it. But so many Muslims say, wonderful religion we have is Islam. But at the same time, we don't go out to really get more people to come in or commit ourselves to go out and propagate. We are just content. When I say we, I don't mean those sitting here, I mean all over the world. Muslims are content to remain in their mosque and preach to the converted. They preach to people who are already Muslims and tell them how to be a Muslim. But the world needs Islam. And the Prophet Muhammad, for example, when he got his mission to give Islam to the world, he was challenged, he was bribed. Biggest bribe that you have ever seen in history. They give him the most beautiful woman, married him, all the wealth of Arabia, will make you the king. He said, if you put the sun in my right hand and the moon in my left hand, I will not give up preaching the oneness of God. That is what we call determination and commitment. So we have to finish the job. You can't build a house and then with only 2 posts or 5 posts completed and then you don't go anywhere. So when people believe in 5 pillars of Islam, they say everything is all right. Islam is a good religion. The best religion because we have 5 pillars. How can you live on 5 pillars if you don't have a floor and if you don't have room and have a roof to protect you? So that concept of Islam being just based on 5 pillars is something which has probably brought the Muslims in a lackadaisical and inept attitude. So every Muslim has high aspirations of Islam's success. Islam will conquer the world. Islam will conquer the world, yes. But they have little commitment in time, or in resources, in effort, in wealth, in spending. And that's why we as members of the Ahmadiyya movement, we take a different approach. What is it? We take a bayat. We take an oath of commitment that I will hold religion above the world. I will go all out to explain the Quran, to teach people, my friends, my family, my own self. Let them learn the Quran, not only to read it in Arabic, but understand that it can help us in every aspect of life. Barakallahu lana wa lakum fil Quran al-Azim. Wa nafa'ana wa iyyakum bil ayati wa zikr al-hakim. Innahu ta'ala jawadun kareem. Malikun barrur raufur rahim. Alhamdulillah nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruh wa nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi wa na'udzu billahi min shururi anfusina wa min sayyiati a'malina man yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa man yudlil fala hadiya lahu wa nashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lahu wa nashhadu anna Muhammadan 'abduhu wa rasuluhu. Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma barik ala Muhammadin wa ala ali Muhammad kama barakta ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka Hamidum Majid. Allahumma ansur man nasara deen Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam waj'alna minhum. Allahumma aghzur man khasala deen Muhammadin sallallahu alayhi wa sallam wa la taj'alna minhum. Inna Allah ya'muru بالعدل والإحسان وإيتاء ذي القربى وينهى عن الفحشاء والمنكر والبغي يعظكم لعلكم تذكرون. اذكروا الله يذكركم وادعوه يستجب لكم ولذكر الله أكبر.